welcome. Welcome to another episode of Taboo Talk, featuring your very own pastor, me, Lady Charmaine Day. Today's episode is guaranteed to be full of sensitive, intimate, natural conversations rarely talked about in the Christian community. So now get ready for your spiritual consultation. Are you ready? Great, let's begin. How are you doing, beautiful? I know you are marvelous, special, phenomenal, and gorgeous because that's all adjectives I would use to describe you. You simply are wonderful and so nice to people. You take time to help others and reach out to care for people. I just want to give you a warm round of applause for being so fantastic. Yay! Keep up the good work because you make God look great. God works through people and he's working through you to help others. So keep showing up. I have a few announcements for beginning the show. If you haven't already, please download onto your Android or iPhone for free the Lady Charmaine Day app. The Lady Charmaine Day app is my free gift to you for joining the ministry and for watching Taboo Talk Virtual Show. There I have features that allow you to listen to Taboo Talk Radio Show, which has over 300 episodes, to watch Taboo Talk Virtual Show, and there's now over 10 episodes, and to read my blog. You can also call me and I'll pray with you and pray for you. There's also a tip calculator and a QR scanner for your convenience. So please download for free the Lady Charmaine Day app. And when you have a chance, please go to ladycharmaineday.com. There you can read more about this ministry, read more about Taboo Talk Virtual Show and see shows. You can read more about the radio show and hear shows. And you can also visit the store to make a purchase. It's through your purchases that I'm able to continue this ministry. And this ministry is done through my radio show, through my virtual show, through my social media, through my website, and through my app. So if you're following me through one of those mediums, I consider you part of the ministry and I'm praying for you all the time. So when you make a purchase, you enable me to continue to do the work that I do. And that's very important to me. So thank you very much. And my last message to you is to thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out today to watch this show. You are wanted, appreciated, and prayed for. Thank you. Well, today we are in for a treat. We have the phenomenal Lori Hamrick Bean with us today. She's going to be sharing with us her 50 under 50 lessons learned in 50 years. And we are waiting to be awesome. It's awesome. I tell you, it's going to be great. So let me tell you about Lori. Lori Hamrick Bean is a mother, wife, small business owner, gardener, political junkie, and occasional blogger. She has stress cooked her way through the quarantine while cracking herself with bad jokes that do not amuse her family. She's an optimistic cynic who tries to find humor in every situation. This year, 2020, she turned 50 on the day the first COVID case was diagnosed in the US in January. Her year of Lori, full of travel, parties, fitness, and educational growth, is the perfect example of karma laughing. Well, help me help you welcome this wonderful woman. Lori, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? I appreciate you inviting me on your show.
I'm so glad to have you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Las Vegas, and it's good to connect again. It's been a while.
I know we were so grateful to have you on the radio show. Your radio show spots are some of the highest listened to shows.
Well, good. That makes me feel good. I guess someone cares what I say, right?
Of course, a lot of people follow Mama Bean's world.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I scaled back a lot on the blogging because I also found out that Russians and Ukrainians were following my blog a lot, and it kind of freaked me out. So I kind of had to dial down some of my rhetoric and because that was weird. That was very weird. So
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, are you ready to share with us your 50 lessons learned now that you're 50 years old?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want me just to kind of go through the list, or?
Yes, and we'll comment
Okay.
along the way and ask questions.
Okay. Well, the biggest thing I learned is that no one will ever love you like your dog, and that came up whenever I was cooking bacon one day, and actually our dog has passed, or one of our dogs passed away since I wrote this, and we had this big, giant, 90, 100-pound Rottweiler mix, Oliver, who was just a bucket of fun. He was like Scooby and Marmaduke and Astro rolled into one, not a mean bone in his body. And he used to talk because he'd get hungry, and he was just standing there when I was making bacon, and he had all this love in his eyes. And I remember looking at my husband, I was like, you never look at me like that. Like, it's with that long, you're the best person ever. So yeah, so that's where that one came from, was Oliver looking at me. So yeah, but anyhow, sadly we lost him to cancer this year. So that was just icing on the cake. But we have a new puppy, and my other dog is still around. Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, so so that was the first one. The next one was Mary, the nice one, not the cool one, not the rich one, not the charming one, but the nice one. Yeah. And I had kind of been engaged quite a few times before, like 4 other times. So my husband was the 5th engagement, and something in my gut always was like, this isn't right. And so I just married the nicest guy out of everybody. So yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yep, the shiny pennies are never worth it, I don't think. Yeah. When I used to have the limit, if they used more hair products than me, that they probably weren't, they were probably a little too high maintenance for my taste. Yeah, or more shoes. I was like, oh, you're not my type. So the other one, gardening fuels your soul. Something about planting a seed and sharing the harvest with others makes you feel connected. And I have a rose garden, which actually has gotten fried because we haven't had rain in 180 days. But yeah, it's been rough out here. And then I have a vegetable garden, and I've had a garden since I was 7 years old. And I've always, the second the first things sprout up, I get really excited about it. And I've shared it, like my son has worked, in the garden with me his whole life. And I love when people come over and visit, and I'll pick a tomato, like just a cherry tomato, and they put it in their mouth, and everybody makes the same face. And I go, because they forgot what a real tomato tastes like. It's not the watered down commercial, like it's sweet and it's wonderful and it's warm. And I always love, like, is it okay to eat it? I'm like, yeah, I like tomatoes. Yeah, there's no chemicals or anything. So that always makes me happy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then this is why, try to never be the smartest person in the room. That way you're always learning. And, one of my favorite things about when we were, at undergrad at Cornell together was that I always learned as much from the other students as I did the professors.
Me too.
And, my team, I have my company, the people that I hire, I don't need to feel like the boss to give me power. I'd rather have people that were smarter with me because they lift me up, and we all have our areas that we're good at. And I think that's how you build a successful life. My friends, I love the fact that I have some of the smartest friends ever. Well, you follow me on my personal Facebook, and I get comments all the time like, your friends are hilarious, like they're super witty, and they take it up a notch, and I like it. It keeps me sharp, and I hope that continues. And then the next one, number 5, I kind of had to smile whenever you were saying you had the tip calculator.
Yes.
On your app, always tip good waiters well. I waited and bartended my way through college and throughout high school. And I always hate when people are cheap with waiters. Like, that was the thing when I was, 100 years ago when I was dating. It's like, really, like, you think you're better than them, or people that send food back. I always laugh because, I know that they're spitting in it probably in the kitchen, but yeah, I just, that's my favorite. Yeah. So I think it's easy. And then also, not against your tip calculator, I taught my kids how to tip in their head.
What?
And yeah, so because it mesmerizes people, it's 15% or 20. You move the decimal, double it if you want 20%. So it's kind of one of those, so that always became our thing at the table, like, okay, how much should the tip be? And that came back with when I waited tables in high school. I had a big party, and you had a guaranteed 15%. And the hostess, she was like, she gets out a calculator, and this was 100 years ago. I said, it's $45, and because it's a $300 table. And she's like, and then she did it. She says, how did you do that? And I was like, 10% is 30, half of that's 15, $45, that's 15. Well, that must be a mistake. And I was like, give me another number. So I sat there and I kept doing it. And the owner of the restaurant was like cracking up laughing, because she's like, well, you're just using a trick. And I was like, yes, math. So I just was like, it wasn't really that hard. So the kids, like, they've done it, and and if we go out with family and stuff, people are like, oh, how did they do that? And I'm like, nah, it's a good thing to learn. So that's it. The other one too, and this one, had I known when I wrote this, how impactful this was: celebrate every birthday like it's your last, because you don't really know. And we've been friends a long time, and I think I was like 25. I didn't have a lot of birthday parties growing up, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but I just started having these ridiculous birthday parties. And then it turned into, in my 30s, we started doing theme parties, which sounds cheesy, but like, we've done, party like you're in college. So everybody showed up in sweatshirts, and we got a keg and did Jello shots. And then we did, we did like a Mad Men, 60s cocktail party. And I had my hair up in a big bouffant, and it's kind of become a big thing. On 2017 in January, because my birthday's inauguration day, which was not a happy day for many people. I did it. It was rainbows, unicorns, and sunshine party, because I was like, even when you're sad, rainbows. So everybody came in like rainbow gear, friends dressed up like unicorns, and it was just completely like we'd lost our minds. So, but then this year, again, my birthday, it was the big 5-0. We went to one of my favorite blues bars that's in town, and normally we just do stuff in our house, and it's cheesy and funny. But this time we decided, you know what, this is a big one, let's go out. And little did I know that, like, within a matter of weeks, that was going to be it. Like, I wasn't going to see my friends again for months. Wow. Because that's when the quarantine kicked in. And, and I've gotten crap about having birthday parties, like, aren't you too old to do it? And I was like, hey, it's another year I'm not dead. You should celebrate. And I think celebrating the stupid stuff is worthwhile. But like, this year, it was just poignant. And it really was. My birthday was on the night, my party was on the 19th. My birthday was the next day. And then, hey, we had our first case of COVID, and, in a matter of, weeks, that was it. So I was glad I had all the pictures. My friends that didn't come, I got to see a great friend from Texas flew into town, and it was just, I'm glad I did it. So, and I'm going to keep doing it, because I thought this might be my last one. And I'm like, no, that kind of sold me on, this year's might be virtual. Who knows?
I know that's
so that was, yeah. And then the next one's funny, because I put hug people, not in a creepy, forceful way, but to let them know you care. Obviously bad advice this year. Like, stay away from
But hugging people is important, especially the ones you love.
Exactly. And, and it's hard because, and I'm not a natural hugger by any means. I used to do what was called the A-frame hug, where you just kind of lean in and do, like a nice little, oh, good to see you. But my friend's mom in high school, Karen Cook, she's a massive hugger. And I remember she goes, I'm just going to squeeze you until you relax. And I was like, because I was like, okay, all right, okay, and then, so I always thought that was it's such a warm feeling. So there was that one. And then tell teachers that they mattered, because I've done that. Like, if you've had a good teacher, or even a good professor, Professor DeVault from, our undergrad, like, whenever Nevada became the first state to have a female majority legislature in the history of the United States, like, wow. And it's at 51%. So it's not like we're not taking over in mass. We're just actually represented. I sent her a note because, all the women's history classes and stuff, and women's labor history, and all the things that we learned, like, I was so proud that I had friends that were part of that.
Nice.
And then tell anybody that they mattered. Because I think that's just one of those things that you never know, especially today with COVID. I mean, my goodness, at the grocery store, someone could sneeze on you and that's it. So And I don't think people take the time to do that.
No.
Let's see here. Then what do we got? Oh, this is one of my favorites, and it drives my husband insane. Take the least stressful route, even if it's not the fastest. I love doing like the scenic routes if we're going somewhere. It's like, oh, we can do the scenic. You know, it adds 20 minutes, but you get to see so many cool things. When I used to drive my old drive to my former office, there was just this beautiful. It was by a golf course. It was just this beautiful road that hardly anybody took because people usually took a freeway to get there. And it just, it's a couple extra minutes, but you just start your day surrounded by green and the outdoors and versus traffic and congestion and freeway driving. But yeah, it makes him nuts. Let's see here.
I have something to say on that one.
Okay.
It is so important not to stress and not to have stress in your life. So taking a less stressful route somewhere, that's huge, because you don't want to show up to your event or your party or whatever you were going to, all hair frazzled and you want to come like, I'm glad to be here. I had a nice drive. And just, by the way, how are you?
Exactly. Because otherwise, life's short. Take pleasure in the little tiny moments. So for me, it's looking at trees. I like being outside. And then read. More than ever, I wish people read more and not crap on the internet necessarily. Well, except my blog, because that's brilliant and insightful, as is yours. Let me rephrase that. But, pick up a book, like get lost in a book, turn off the tech, even though I do tend to read on a Kindle. But I think that those are all like things that, get lost in a story, read about something that interests you. I'm always like horrified at the statistics at how few books people read after they graduate from high school and then after college. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's growing up without a lot of money. It was a great way to see the world, because you can, and you learn other people's viewpoints. Whether it's one of my favorite books on immigration is called The Tortilla Curtain. And it really talks about undocumented people when they come through to the U.S., how a lot of them are robbed at the border, all these things. And like, it's something I never would have known about in that level. So I don't know. I think that there's, or, whether it's Pride and Prejudice, and I love Jane Austen, and you read that, you find out people really haven't changed too much, no matter what it is. And my favorite book is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And it's just telling the story of this high society woman who's throwing a party, but you see it through the different characters' eyes. So it starts off, Mrs. Dalloway, you're in her head, and she's like, oh, I hope people come, and and her old boyfriend was coming, and she felt like she would look dowdy, and you think she's just this frumpy housewife, and then she's walking down the street, and the characters go into somebody who's watching them, and she goes, oh, that's couples that are in love on the bench, and then you find out actually the husband was in the mental health care facility, and the wife didn't know what to do. And it takes you through like our perceptions of people. And I just think it's one of the most thoughtful books. And everybody in town is trying to get invited to Mrs. Dalloway's party, but she herself thinks that she's, not worth it. So I think those are the things that you learn from reading. And then the next one was 13 was some people are assholes, and that's just how it is.
Wait, can we have a recap of that one? Some people are just assholes, period.
They are, and you can spend your life trying to change them or work around them or dodge them. I like just avoid them. They are what they are, and just move on. I don't engage. Like sometimes, I was like the keyboard warrior. Somebody posts something, you're like why? Like they're an asshole. Just call it a day. The grocery store, I will, like if somebody's going off on someone else, I have stuck my head in more than my husband would appreciate. But in general, like just roll your eyes and just move on. So that's it. Also go to lectures at local universities, because you should never stop learning. And you meet other people, I think, that have the same interests. We're fortunate, UNLV has the Bear Lecture Series, our community, or the College of Southern Nevada, they'll have speakers come in. My son and I, actually it was on his birthday a few years ago, we went, and it's I cannot remember the name of the physicist, and he wrote this great book. And I was like, Alex, do you want to go? Like the astronomy club's putting it on or co-sponsoring it. And we loved it. And, it was this, on how things interconnect. And I don't know, like I think and you're in a room with other thoughtful people that share an interest, or we've done seminars there on gardening and how to garden in the desert. And I don't know, it's just, you meet some cool people. So I always say that's how I collect my patchwork of friends. It's just like, going to stuff. So
nice.
And then let's see, 15, you have no idea what it's like to be a parent until you are a parent, for better or worse. And I think that that's one of those things. Like I have a lot of friends and I think, choosing not to have children is fine, not having children, but I think I would say, oh, I know how stressful it would be. And you don't until you're there. And it's different. It is entirely, I had a friend, I wasn't going to have kids in the family or anything like that. And she said, Lori, being a mother, she goes, it's like trying to explain how ice cream tastes. She goes, if you have no concept of what it is, you can't enjoy it. I also think, and I look back when I was single and I would see kids misbehaving. I'm like, well, I'm not a parent. I don't know what it's like. Let me tell you, those people were crappy parents and their kids should have put their butts in their seats and sat down at the restaurant. Like it wasn't as complicated as I thought either. So I feel like Gina clearly has had this, because I was like, well, I don't want to judge, I've never had children. I'm like, yeah, you can zip it, sit down, we're in public, act like a human.
Hello.
Yeah. So, I think it's one of those things like, there's compassion and there's, hey, don't bring your 2-year-old to a nice restaurant with tablecloths at 7:00 on a Saturday night. Like that, you don't, like, what are you thinking? So there's some of that, but I think it's a different, everybody says like, oh, I have dogs. And it's different. It doesn't mean it's better. It doesn't mean that you can't have a fulfilling life. It's just a different feeling. And I didn't know until I had kids. And honestly, I always say it was easier than I thought it would be, because I think God gives you what you can handle. And for me, he's like, I'm going to give you the easiest kids in the world because you look like you could snap at any moment. So I have easy children. Okay. So let's see. And if someone wants to end a relationship with you, whether it's a romantic or a friendship, just let them. I've never understood the girls who pine and chase after guys, the only thing to do with them, or friends, trying to rekindle. You know what? If somebody, like, why would you put yourself in a position to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Like, it's okay. Like, I am not the right fit for everyone. And I know that. And I just never took a relationship ending personally, because you know what? It meant something, or, not everybody's going to like me. So yeah, let's see. Religion has a little to do with spirituality or morality. I was born and raised Catholic. I never had anything negative with the Catholic Church, because people go, oh, you don't go, you must hate them. I don't. Like, my priest growing up had long hair, Birkenstocks, and rode a Harley. So I had a very different Catholic experience than most people. That's great people. I used to sing, at our church, and it was more the doctrine. I think I believe in just a different type of spirituality. And I think being good and kind. I always joke around, I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore because I don't need to practice anymore. And it all came from, actually, and this is like a double story, but it's worth it, I think, for your show especially. And it was during the Bill Clinton hearings on, when he kept saying, well, what is the definition of is? And our priest was like, he had been an attorney before, I think, before he entered the priesthood later. And he was talking about that there is a right and there is a wrong. And when you cross your own moral line. And he said, because you never have to justify or rationalize doing the right thing. If someone comes in your house and is hurting your family and you kill them to save your family, you don't have to rationalize that. Now, if they're running down the street and you shoot them in the back, you obviously that's wrong. And and any time that you think like, well, maybe, just stop what you're doing, because you're starting to rationalize doing something that you don't believe in. And working in finance, there's the people like, well, what's really in the best interest. Yeah, in your gut, when you're doing something wrong. And I always joked around. I said that was like the final homily I ever needed to hear, because if you just use that as your moral compass, like as soon as you go, what, stop, like it's wrong, and you know it, and if you never cross that line, you can sleep a lot better at night. And his other thought too is you don't need someone to tell you where the line is. Like we all know where the line is. And especially today where people seem to just do whatever's in their best interest and they don't care about others, I think that people know. So that was kind of my thought. On the 18th, so then we go to something a little lighter. Don't buy a car the same day that you test drive it. It'll be there tomorrow. And that's probably being in financial services. I see people like, oh, it was a great deal. It'll be there tomorrow. Like, take a breath, go home. Don't go, it was so shiny, because then you drive it and you like realize the seat wasn't what you wanted and all that. And then also travel every time you have the opportunity. The trips that I've not taken are the ones I regret, or they're probably my only life regret. Like and we were actually supposed to go to Italy. And we were supposed to go to Europe next year, and I was going to try to squeeze in a trip to Italy, and I was doing my Duolingo, and then COVID hit, and now my Duolingo pops up to practice my Italian. I was like, no, it's just mocking me. And like little thing comes up, you haven't read them. I know, because Italy's closed. This is such a weird time. Oh, the other thing is, don't let other people take their issues out on you. And I've seen that within, our family circles and things like that. Like, well, they're going through a lot. Well, it doesn't mean they get to treat you like crap. I think there's compassion and patience, but I think sometimes you need to draw a line and call people out.
I'll be right there for a second.
Oh, yeah.
It is so important to know that you're not, just because someone's related to you, that does not give them the right to treat you in any kind of way outside of being a human being. If people are treating you wrong, if people are treating you nasty, and they happen to be family, turn your hind cheeks the other way and walk out the door. Stay away from negative, toxic people, even if it's
absolutely
family.
Well, and I feel like some people think that because you're family, you're not going to go. And I'm like, yeah, I can. We'll invite someone else to sit at the table for the next holiday. Well, if we ever can get in large groups again, of course. But yeah, no, I'm all about that. And also, this is like a really hilarious tip that I learned at a class I took through the adults learning at UNLV. Is anytime that you speak in public, if you put your non-dominant foot front, so I'm right-handed, I always put my left foot a little bit in front of my right foot, it calms you down. And then I used it when I would sing too. Because what happens is your subconscious is like, hey, wait, since it's off. And your subconscious is what makes you nervous when you public speak. Like, it's completely irrational. Your pants are going to fall down. You're not going to choke. You'll be fine. But that a little additional thing frees up, I think, your brain from going, hey, your zipper's down, to why is your foot out there? You're up out. But it really works, and it just helps you kind of take a deep breath, and it's just, so that's one of the little tips that I've shared with people, and they're like, that is really impactful.
It is. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, public speaking isn't like the most fun for most people. I think they fear it more than death. So whatever I can do to make it easier. Also, this is a big deal to me. If you're raising a child, let them fail. They need to learn that it won't kill them and they can recover. And, in this era where you have parents that are so disconnected, or you have hover parents, it seems like there's very few people in the middle. My son, his 5th grade year, he had an optional project at the end of the year, and I never helped him on any of his school projects. I would make sure he had the resources he needed. And, if he needed help cutting something, maybe do that. But he needed to build a pyramid. And I was like, oh, I said, I've never helped you 5th grade. Last year in elementary school, I'll help you do it. So I kept saying, no, don't touch it. You're going to ruin it. I was being like hilarious. And we did a sugar cube pyramid. And I was like, oh, that's just happy. Here. And I basically did the whole thing. And he started laughing. I said, so I got to tell you, Alex, I said, here's the deal. All the time the kids had those fantastic projects and you never could understand why yours didn't look like that. I said, that's because their parents were doing them. And I said, and I got to tell you, they're going to burn out by middle school. And, it's exactly what happened. And, I joke around a lot that my kids looked homeless, like most of the time through elementary school, because I let them pick out their own clothes. And I probably cracked down more on my son as a teenager, like, how many days have you worn that shirt? And yes, we can smell it. More on that line, but like, you know what? It's their choice, and they need to find themselves. And I'm not going to be there ironing their clothes and getting them ready. So that was, and also get the bad grade. And one of my good friends now is actually, my son had her for English, and he was doing great. And then the fourth quarter, he gets a B, and it was like an 88 or something. And he was actually going to skip a year in English. She'd recommended that he go into this accelerated program. So from sixth grade, he went into eighth grade English. And so I just sent a note at the end of the year, and I said, Alex is great. I said, hey, I was just curious. I noticed he got a B in the fourth quarter. Was it because he became big man on campus? He started playing lacrosse, got a little swagger, and didn't do any work. I said, which is what I saw on my end. I said, or is he really challenged? Because I don't want him to, to skip a year if he really needs to repeat it. And that's all it was. And she wrote back, she goes, oh no, he'll be fine today. You might want to do some supplemental stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, okay, great. And I didn't find out till 2 years later. We became friends. And she goes, I remember getting that because all these parents were upset because there had been a really hard exam, which is why his grade had dropped. And they were demanding that the grades be changed. And she said, a lot of times she just does it because it's not worth it. It's not like it goes on the permanent record. And she's just tired of the parents. And she feels bad for the kid because she knows the kids get. And I told her, I said, oh my gosh, no, that was the best grade that ever happened because the kid's never gotten a B since. Because he was so mortified. And, and in eighth grade, when they give out who had straight A's for 3 years, he didn't get the award. And I could tell it was killing him because he screwed around. And so I don't know, like, I think those are the failures that they learn from. And, you get up, you're not the best player on the team. You're still going to show up for the rest of the season. You don't have to do it next season if you don't want to, but you've committed and it's okay. You're not going to be great at everything. But that's how you learn. So that's kind of it. Let's see here. Dressing up makes me feel good down. And I would wear sweats and a sweatshirt and slump through life if I could in flip-flops. But anytime I'm like not really feeling great, you put on the fitted suit and you're like, woohoo, I got it. And I usually trip and fall because I don't wear heels enough. And that gets to the next one. Wear loafers or slide-on shoes when you fly, and socks because the floors are disgusting at the airport.
Yeah.
And I used to travel a lot more for business. And I got to tell you, people are like, why are you wearing lace-up shoes? Like, first of all, a lot of people can't really bend over all that well to tie their shoes. And they're there, and they've got these big boots. And I'm like, just a pair. And then they're plain feet walking. Anyhow,
ooh,
it's gross. Like, wear a little sock, get some Skechers. It's not a big deal. The official shoe of flying. Okay. This is what we talked about earlier. Just because you're related to someone doesn't mean you have to put up their behaviors or others. You don't get a get out of jail free card because we share DNA.
I love that.
I will never understand that at all. Also, this is another really useful tip. If you like scrambled eggs, if you mix a tablespoon of water in as you're scrambling them, it makes your eggs light and fluffy because the water actually steams them up as you cook. So it's a little fluffy egg tip. These are the important things that really, have made my life.
Those things matter.
They do. Also, I don't like thick pillows. I've never understood it. When people get, like, my neck always hurts. The big fluffy pillows. I like a nice flat pillow. And then looking at the stars remind me how truly insignificant I am in the spectrum of time. And, saying that we're all made of stardust. I love stargazing. My son is huge. My daughter even enjoys it. My son or my husband, when the ISS goes through the International Space Station, like, we have an app that tracks it. We're total dorks. But like, you really get in the enormity of things, we're this little tiny speck in time, as long as the planet's been here, and we're all interconnected, but we're all temporary. And I think that just helps me, like, anytime I'm like, angst or any kind of anxiety, I'm just like, it passes. And there's always other people going through the same, we're little specks of dust, literally. So I love looking up at this sky. Also, having money doesn't make people happy, but not having to worry about money is nice. And I had a hard relationship with money, growing up kind of in the whole blue collar, and then to go to an Ivy League school, and like see kids that were like jetting off to islands on the weekend. I mean, there were some people that were pretty loaded. And I still remember my one roommate's like, do you want to get a pizza? And I was like, well, I don't have any money for it. And she goes, well, that's okay. We can hit the ATM tomorrow. And I was like, no, you don't understand. There's like no money in the ATM. And she didn't understand, but how does that work? And I remember her dad handed her a check for tuition. And I was like, oh, I'd never seen a check like that before. So I had weird relationships with money, almost to a point where I think it could become kind of defeating. And let's face it, some of the wealthier people that that I went to college with were not the nicest people, but then others were. Yeah. So and in helping people and what I do for a living professionally, helping people get their finances together, it's really very empowering. And there's a certain level that you need so that you don't have to worry about the lights getting turned off or not having enough, and to be okay. That's a good feeling. Having more, it doesn't make or break you. It doesn't make you better than me. It doesn't make you less than me. But you gotta get your house in order. And I love helping other people kind of overcome, that obstacle, because it sounds like a weird thing. But I just read somewhere that 47% of Americans have less than $500 to their name, and that's beyond paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's why the recession that we're in now is it's just sad. So you want to make sure you plan stuff. Yeah. Bye, Gina. Bye. Also, no matter how much you love what you do, some days it's going to suck and you just need to deal with it. My dad always said they wouldn't call it work and they wouldn't pay you if it was that much fun. So,
that's true.
Yeah, and I love what I do and I'm passionate about what I do, but there are days you're like, so just suck it up. We always say, put on your big girl pants, pour yourself a cup of black coffee, and just do it. So,
I know that's right.
And let's see here. I'm trying to think. Also, not sticking to a fitness routine was a very bad choice on my part. Like out of anything, I'm like, I had a good routine. I was fit for most of my life, and then I just couldn't get back into a routine of it. And it's getting better. Actually, that's been a perk of the quarantine, is kind of focusing on health a little bit more after I went through my Ben and Jerry's phase. That first 6 weeks. We all cope differently. That was my coping mechanism.
I know that's right.
Yeah. So, I always tell, like, if I have young interns, I was like, just make sure that is a huge priority, because your health is your number one goal. You're no good to anybody dead.
That's true.
Unless you left them a lot of money, and then they might like that. Let's see here. People are like roses. They have the ability to be beautiful and sweet if they're appreciated, and thorny and difficult when they're not.
Hello.
Yeah, so you got to keep them nurtured. Keep the cards and notes from your grandparents. I have a box. I used to write my grandmothers when I was in college, and even they passed away a couple years into my adulthood after. But I love those letters. Like, they were just wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was like, because I guess it's a lost art, but like a letter or a note or anything, I think that means a lot to people these days. Especially with everybody being isolated.
I kept all of the cards that my grandmothers and grandfathers gave to me. And now that they're gone, I treasure them. I love them. I look at them like they love me. And I know they love me. And this is what they said to me. And this made me feel special. So if you ever need like a pick-me-up, seeing your grandparents' cards or letters makes you feel very special.
Well, and it's a part of a legacy and history. And that they mattered, you mattered, they're still there.
Yeah.
I think that, we continue on by the memories that other people hold, of us. I've always felt that. Let's see here. Learning to sew was a great skill that's come in handy.
Yes.
How funny, before the apocalypse hit, I was sewing. I made masks for a lot of families and friends and different organizations, and I learned to sew actually when we were in college, because I was like too skinny to get clothes that fit right. Anyhow, so I used to make like all my professional clothes. Like when I would do internships, I'd afford to go get a suit, so I could get a jacket at Burlington Coat Factory. But then I always made my own blouses and skirts for that. So I didn't know if you do that. All those times that we interviewed, yeah, I made those.
Oh, you look hot too.
Yeah, well, like the jacket, I know jackets are hard, but skirts and blouses are easy. But I'm really glad I learned that. And how funny that this year, I joke with my husband, it's great that I have all these degrees and certifications and stuff, but really my 4-H skill set has been really beneficial during the quarantine. So
nice.
Yeah. Also, no one can take away your education. It's a worthwhile investment. It's not about the diploma. It's what you learned. And I really think, and I think it's lifetime. I think continuing to educate. And I don't understand people that are just done. Like they pick a date, like, well, I've learned everything I need to know. And, I have a client who's 84 who still takes, continuing ed classes and, be like, oh, I just read the most fascinating book. And like, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't think that it's finite. Like, because you can never know everything, so why not? But I think that that's important. Also, becoming involved in government is your civic duty. I hate when people go, oh, the government, it's so messed up, and them, as if it's a strange third party. And, I think in our country, we have the benefit that we are the government. I get frustrated when people talk about term limits. I get why, they want to clean house, but we can clean house. We have elections. If you don't have someone, support a candidate in the primaries, or like we control it. So if the government sucks, it means we suck. And whether it's trying to get a stop sign in which is a joke of ours because we need one in this one intersection by our house. And I'm always like, somebody woulda, coulda, shoulda. And at the end of the day, that's you. Like, go to a municipal meeting. Actually, New York, you guys have a lot of opportunities for engagement. Yeah. And if the government becomes corrupt, it's because, we get the government we deserve. And I don't particularly like what we have right now. But you know what? We voted for it, and this is what we have. And, people can be upset about, the Supreme Court nominee and whatever. But you know what? We had an opportunity to vote. And it is what it is. There are consequences, and it does impact your life. And whether it's school board meetings or whatever, you can't complain. And I hate that social media creates the norm where people just throw up their arms or cancel people or attack people. There are venues. Like, did you call? Like, did you call the school? Did you call the principal? Did you take it up a level? Did you go to a board meeting? That's a great idea. Why don't you present it to someone? Call your assembly person. Call your state senator. Get involved in local, and no one does. It's easier to whine and moan, and we have no excuse in this country. Absolutely, you can be engaged. It's not that hard.
That is true.
That's my pulpit today on that one.
I feel you, sister. Go ahead, girl.
Yeah, and also part of that too is having friends of all ages. I have friends, in their 80s. I call them my young people friends, and like we'll be talking. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm older than your mom, and they're like, no, I was like, I am. And like I'll make a reference, like maybe a Love Boat reference, and they just go, huh? Or like, like the other thing is like recording. Like I'll say, oh, I'll tape that instead of record it, and I'm like, there's no tape anymore, Lorraine. Like, so it's just nuances. And one of the guys that works with me, he's awesome. We call him the token millennial. Because he'll like boomer me. I was like, I am Gen X. I am not a boomer. But you pick up different views and perceptions, and it's interesting. Like I think that's you just stay engaged. Whether it's learning things from a historical perspective or seeing things through a new light. I think that's how you don't get old or act old. And then this one, I kind of touched on this. Not everyone's going to like you, and as hard as it seems, you just have to be okay with it.
Life.
I am not everyone's cup of tea. If they think I'm too loud or too animated or too snarky or okay, like that's their loss. I think I'm funny. Well, I laugh at myself more than anyone. You just don't need it. And it's okay. And I've worked with people really successfully that I didn't personally like, and we know it. And sometimes those make some of the best teams that you can be on. Like, we're not going to go hang out together, and we're never taking a vacation together, but we're just different, and let's tolerate each other and get stuff done. So, because it can be effective. Also, if you're going to have a business, it's a lot of work, ridiculous work. Don't start one unless you're ready to work harder than you ever have before. I knew I couldn't be an employee. I hopped around, after college, and part of it was I didn't know what I really wanted to do. Being my own boss, having my own, my own staff, my own team. We set the environment, which we were just joking about earlier. Is probably way too casual, but I want to have fun when I go to work. I want people to have fun when they come in. We get the work done. I love that, clients say it's so enjoyable. Like it's like seeing a friend. And then sometimes I have to remind them, yeah, and I also know what I'm doing. But it should be, I like that I can create my own world. And but it is so much work and it never stops. Like there's my husband, teaching distance learning is insane this year. I've never seen him work this hard. But I've even commented, I said, I know, but you know what? Those are the kind of hours that I usually put in, like it's more than what he's used to. There's no break. And like he worked all through the summer. And I think with the business, like you never really go on vacation, if something happens, you're going to get a call. And so you give that up, but you also, again, I'm not going to lose my job because I'm the boss. So
love it.
Unless I commit a felony, then there's some issues. But that's but then I have a different kind of employment as an inmate. But I just think that it is so much work, and I think people go in, and there's a great book called The E-Myth where it's like, Sally liked to bake pies. Everybody told her she should open a shop, so she opens a pie shop. Well, yeah, Sally liked baking pies, but she didn't like running a pie business.
Right.
And I think it's just you got to have a different personality for it. And when I waited tables, I always made the most tips because I hustled, because I was like, well, it's unlimited, like, so if it would be like, oh, do you want my extra table? I'm going to go and break. Absolutely. It's an extra back then, $5-10, like, why would you be here if you didn't want to work? And I think you have to have like that ridiculous competitive drive. Yeah. And I honestly don't think most people have it. I think like, and if I had a business, everybody would have a pension and health insurance. Yeah, you try to make a net profit on that, and because you got to be the IT guy, the CFO, and all these things to get started. But it's a lot of work. So, but if you want to do it, it's great. So I got to do my pitch for being an entrepreneur. Let's see here. Also, be kind. It doesn't mean being a pushover. Limits are fine, but being an asshole never pays off. And my husband, with the parents freaking out about distance learning, he's had some emails come in, and he's exhausted, and my heart just goes out. And tech doesn't always work. Kids can't get stuff done. Like, there's a lot of legitimate reasons parents would email. And I told him, I said, just kind of step back and take a moment of grace. They're tired, they're exhausted. You don't know, they might have 4 kids at 4 different levels, and they're, mom's trying to get all this going, and dad comes home from work, because that's usually the scenario, or vice versa. And what the heck's going on here? And this is just more than ever the time I think we need to take a breath. And I will see, even with masks, like I'm a big, obviously wear a mask. Seems to work, right? And I was talking to like an elderly client, and they said they really can't. They have COPD, and they very rarely go out. And one of the reasons they stopped going anywhere, and they know they're taking a risk, is because people just start in on them. And you know what? People know if they're not wearing a mask, they're putting others at risk. But sometimes people have to go out. And I think it's very few people that really can't wear them. I mean, I'll be honest. This person I absolutely believe, but like, they're like, my doctor told me it wasn't good for me, so blah, blah, blah. And the judging, and I feel that we're perpetually judging each other. And I've been horrible at it, particularly this whole election season. Like I think we all just need to take a deep breath, and it doesn't make sense to scream and yell. If somebody cuts in front of you at the grocery store, there's a good chance they didn't know it. And if they did, maybe they're in a hurry. Maybe they've got like a sick kid in the car. And these are all the things that I think that you just got to step back and just be the kind person, of the day. And my husband, he had this one parent, and he was just losing. I said, just be the nice one. and say, hey, absolutely, I'll make an exception, blah, blah, blah. And he did, and he got a thank you from the mom, the dad, and the kid. Just because everybody's so wired, it's like, just be the sunshine in their day.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, and I had an issue with my employment tax is a good example. I had a change in my rating, and my payroll company had underpaid because they didn't get the notice on it. No big deal, but I owed like $700 to Nevada unemployment. So I just wanted to verify before I sent in a check, and I called and left a message. I said, hey, I think this is what happened. If you could just give me a call back. Now, who is busier than anyone right now than state unemployment, particularly in Las Vegas, like Nevada? It's a nightmare. They're behind on claims, and everybody's calling and screaming at them. And I get it, because it's, people need the money. So I get a call back, 48 hours later, and like, hello. And, this is Mary from Dieter and the Department of Training. And you had a question. I said, you know what? I got it figured out. I went in. I said, it was my mistake. And I said, this is probably the best call you're going to get all day. I was, and she started like laughing, because she goes, you have no idea. Because she was so ready, like, all right, lady, you're going to yell at me. And I'm like, no, I owe you the money. Like, I said, I'm actually just trying to figure out, can I pay it online? Because I don't think I can. And I said, can I send in a check? I just want to make sure it gets cleared. And they had sent notices, by the way, which I just thought were like, oh, my payroll company's getting it. They'll fix it. So I was like, I said, oh, by the way, you guys sent me 5 notices on this. So they didn't make a mistake. I screwed up. But I guess people don't admit it. So it made me happy. Like, I was the one person that made her laugh. Nice. Also, and creative arts, and this is what makes me sad now, is music, theater, art, the cinema, all of that's so essential. And, that's the one area that we just haven't figured out. And I'm like, can't we just do outdoor productions on things, but music, that's what makes life worth living. And I think, that always shows the beauty, and more people should do it. Also, 42, hair grows out. So there you go. So like a bad haircut, I guess it depends. That may be the wrong, but change your hairstyle. I don't know. I've never been devastated by it. This also, how prophetic. 43, don't ever say what else could happen, because you'll find out. And we joke around. Yeah, Evan at our office, right before it, at the end of 2019, he said, he goes, this has been just a dumpster fire year. I'd look at it, and he was saying all these awful things. He was like, you just jinxed 2020. So as things started to happen in 2020, including we both lost people in our lives, like the first week, I was like, man, like you really threw some bad juju on 2020. And then, but we did give him off. We're like, okay, you're not responsible for the global pandemic. But maybe he is. No. So like, that's our joke. Like anytime people are like, this year's been terrible, I was like, just Evan, it's Evan's fault. He's actually outside my door. He would come in and laugh at that. So, yeah. Also, having the last word isn't important. And this is really hard for me to learn, coming from like the labor relations school, where, you argue to the death, right? Hello. So it's just kind of just walk away. It's okay. Like, just, alrighty then. It's not the agree to disagree. It's like, I'm not going to convince you. I don't need to say the final amen. Yeah, because it's so intuitive of me to do that. It's like, just walk, just let it go. Yeah. This is 45 is huge, and it's don't miss the moments because you're stuck in your head. I think that we all get caught up in our own junk. And that came from my kids when they were really little. They'd be like, oh, you're making your face again. I'm like, what? Because here I am, I think I'm being a great mom, and I'm getting ready for breakfast or get ready to go to school, and I always would check my work email on my phone, and they could see, like, my face would change, like, and they knew, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, I'm missing this great moment here with my kids. And I think multitasking is important, but I also think you got to be there. If you're recording, with your iPad or your iPhone, all of your kids' events and stuff, you're not experiencing them. And I think that's with everything, like, oh, selfie this, selfie that. Don't I look great? I was like, oh, see, they'd be proud of me because I finally got the angle. This is what I learned from my young friends. The camera angle, get it higher, like but like, not everything is a selfie, like you need to be there and just be in the moment. And If you're at a concert, listen to music. Like, you don't have to like, yeah, look, I'm here. And I think because I'm a heavy social media user, but people are amazed. I really don't post as much as I do. It's not like every time I go to lunch with friends, I'm like, selfie. I just like go to lunch with my friends. I don't need to broadcast it. And I think people are losing that more. Then we're down to the last few, and I know we're coming up on time, but find humor in life. I think there's always something funny. Somebody goes, the funniest things always happen to you, Lori. I'm like, nah, I think I'm always looking out for the humor.
Yeah.
Because I think most people are good people. I totally believe that. Even with, I suppose we all hate each other now and all this crap. I don't buy it. I think that we all love our families. I think there's some angry people on in every scope of this, of everything that's been happening. But I think most of it, like, there's a lot of funny crap going on now too. And just the humor in finding, like homeschooling. My husband, so we both have standing desk options at home, which is great. I finally was like, oh, you're going to love it. Convinced him to get it. So he's there and he's like teaching his class. Well, we have this new puppy, and the puppy pulled his shorts down. And my husband, he couldn't miss a beat because, the kids can't see, but I'm in my office cracking up because there's my husband at our dining room table in his boxers teaching a history class. Like, it just doesn't get any better than that. And no. I could barely breathe. It was so funny. And, and he's trying to keep it together because then I'm laughing and, and the dog's like, he's like, okay, kids, we just need to take a quick break. So that, those are just, it's a crappy time, but why not laugh? The other very important thing, don't put plastic containers in the bottom rack of the dishwasher. Even if they say it's okay, it still melts. I don't care what they tell you. So very, very important life learning. In 48, your relationships tend to reflect what you put into them. When I'm like not dialed in, I can tell. I think that, we get more disconnected, and you gotta be there in the moment. And, the best friendships are the people that you pick up the phone and call and stay engaged with, even if it's, you don't see them for, years, or it's virtual. Like, I think, you nurture the friendships you really want. And 49 real friends get you through anything, especially, I don't know about you, but like, my friend posse has been great. We've social distanced. Everybody checks in on everybody, especially when the market was going crazy. My friends are like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm exhausted. With the schooling, do you guys need anything? Do you need tech stuff? We've got tech stuff. That type of stuff. I think that your real friends show up. Other people post on Facebook, but real friends are there. And then the last one is just every night say thank you for the fact that you're given another day. And I think we all take that for granted. I think going to bed angry, I just, every night I give, a quick prayer of thanks. And again, like, a lot of my friends would be like, oh, you pray? Like, yeah, I don't go to church. I don't, I just think that that's something I'm just grateful, because I've got a great life, great kids, great family. I have a career I love. I work with people that are amazing. And I think it's because I'm grateful for it. So.
Wow.
So that's all I got. That's my 50 words of wisdom, So left, your non-dominant foot forward, don't put the plastic in the bottom, and be nice. Like, really. I think those are the key ones.
Wow. So. Lori, that was amazing.
Woo! Hey, we did it in time.
Yes. Lori, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with us?
I stay engaged. I think, people are building up fences around themselves based on beliefs, and you gotta meet people that aren't like you. You gotta have friends of everything because I think that's how we change the world. We don't do it by calling people idiots or labeling them. You just got to keep integrating and putting yourself out there, because it's this us versus them it's going to tear our country apart. And I think that we probably, again, I think 80% of us agree on everything, and we all want what's best for each other. But we've got to start doing something. So that would be my big word of wisdom for this year. Also, wear a freaking mask. I can't even say, like, it's science. Like, it's not, like, I don't care. I'm not going to get on a helicopter and go to Walter Reed and get the best quality care ever. I'm going to be schlepping at some hospital with, just be don't be stupid, people. It's science. Just, I don't know. So that's it. But any thoughts? How are you? Your feedback is always welcome and all that good stuff. So,
well, Lori, I thought you did a phenomenal job, and I want to give people the opportunity, if they want to follow you, on your social media URLs. So can you please share with us your social media URLs?
Well, the only thing I still have going, and I don't blog too much, is mrsbeansblog.blogspot.com. So that's the blog, and I've got a lot of stuff that I started writing. It's actually been over 10 years that I've been writing on it, and every once in a while something hits me. Part of it was a joke that the Ukrainians and the Russians were following me, because they actually were. That was really creepy. But I felt like I was posting really angry blogs, and I thought, the world has enough of that. So I just scaled back because I wanted it to be a place where people could go and be thoughtful and laugh. But I didn't have anything funny to say. The last 4 years have been hard. Like, I'm not as funny as I used to be, because I'm just like, what is wrong? But it is what it is. And I think we live in the world that we live. So, I don't know. Please vote. Everybody vote. Like, yeah, that would be the other thing too. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And Lori, last question. Would you come back to Taboo Talk again in the future?
Absolutely. If people think this is fun, I would love to.
Wow. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I learned so much from your list. That's why I had you come on and share it. Because when I saw your 50 list, I said, oh my God, this is what I would write. This is incredible. So it's a phenomenal list. You really learn some gems and some wisdom points that really help people. And that's what you are, Lori. You're very helpful and perceptive and insightful and humorous blogger who brings things to the forefront so that anybody can see it, look at it, and learn from it. And I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So we have come to the end of this show. This show was done because you, listener of Taboo Talk, you're phenomenal. And Lori came to share with you her 50 lessons that she's learned in 50 years so that you could grow and evolve to the next level. All my people who come on the show do that because they want you to grow and evolve. And why is that? Because you deserve nothing less than what the very best is. And God has promised you a peaceful, happy, wonderful, prosperous, abundant life. Continue seeking God's face in all that you do, and a wonderful life will occur for you. Taboo Talk, featuring me, your pastor, Lady Charmaine Day, exists to help transform your mind, body, and spirit, utilizing the principles of Jesus Christ. I promise I will continue to bring people like Lori Hamrick Bean on the show who will enlighten you and take you to the next level in a humorous way that's so much fun that you're like, I'm learning and I'm having fun. And I promise you, people will continue to do that because you're very, very special. Well, until next time, take care of yourself. Stay special. Goodbye.